Hi everyone, welcome to another section with Adedamola and Eyitayo. In this series, we've been talking about data privacy and the law. So over the past few weeks, we've had to discuss on the principles of data privacy. We've had section where we talked about key players in data privacy and other sections that you can watch after this series. You can just check our previous posts. We've been having conversations on data privacy and law. So today I will be discussing on the rights of data subjects. So if you missed out on our previous videos where we talked about who a data subject is, I will encourage you to check out that video so you have a full understanding of who data subject is. So talking about rights, yes, we've been talking about data privacy and protection. And if you've been following our series, you come to an understanding that the law does not just make provision on how your data is to be processed. The law does not just make provision on the fact that data controllers need to put measures in place, but the law also recognizes the rights of every data subject. And this is one of the essence of data privacy, because if the law is just talking about collection of data, processing of data and the likes, and not and there's no provision on the rights of a data subject, then that defeats the essence of data privacy. Because the essence of privacy is to give you some rights, some protection. So today we'll be looking at the rights of data subjects. And if you are watching us from Nigeria, we all know that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides for rights to privacy. So that is to buttress the fact that as a data subject, there are certain rights that are available to you, which you can explore when you give out your data, the moment your data is received by a data controller. So permit me, I will still refer you to our previous video where we talked about key players in data privacy. So we've talked about data subjects, data controllers, so you know who these people are. But just by way of summary, before you watch that video, data subjects are people who provide their data to an individual or a third party or an entity, an organization, and these are data controllers. So data controllers are people who collect information from people, while data subjects are the givers of this information. And we've had series where we talked about the things that constitutes data, personal data, sensitive data. So you can just check out this video for a more robust understanding of this concept. So I was talking about the Constitution of Nigeria, which guarantees the right to privacy of each individual as a Nigeria. And this right is not just limited to Nigerians. All over the world, there is a right to privacy. And the extent of these rights are determined by the legal provisions of a given jurisdiction, that is a country. So, for example, again, Nigeria Data Protection Act, it provides for the rights of data subjects. If you're also watching us from the European countries, you also know about the General Data Protection Regulation, that's the GDPR. It also provides for rights of data subjects too. And if you are watching us outside of Europe or any African country, all countries, all continents, they have their own data protection regulation. And if you look at this data protection regulation, you will see a part of this regulation or law that talks about your rights as a data subject. So wherever you are watching us from, you can just check out the data protection regulation in your country to know the provisions of the law on your rights. But if you look at all of these laws holistically, if you pick the Nigerian Data Protection Act, if you pick the General Data Protection Regulation, if you pick the provisions of the law in China on data protection, if you pick the Canadian law, all of these laws, you find out that there is one there, like these rights of data subjects, they are the same. It's just that the way it is being couched might be different, but generally if you look at it, you see that every data protection, every data subject, they have a right to be informed, they have a right of access. I'll still discuss on this. They have right to object to use of data, they have right to opt out, they have right to rectify their data, they have right to erase, your right to say that, oh, delete my data from your database. They have a right of data portability, that is to transfer their data from one device to another. They have a lot of rights, and this is a summary of what you see in each data protection regulation or law. And during one of our series, we talked about the principles of data protection. We talked about the principle of the law that talks about accuracy, principle of accuracy. We had that conversation. We talked about principle that talks about lawful purpose. You have to collect the people's data for a lawful purpose. You don't just get people's data anyhow. You have to inform them. Principle of consent, you have to notify them. So this still transcends into the rights of every data subject. So talking about the right to be informed, so this right says that every data subject has the right to be informed and notified when their data is being collected or used. And this right extends to the fact that they need to have, they can make a demand, or they can query a data controller on the use of their data. They can ask, okay, who are the people you are sending my data to? How do you use it? What are the things you are collecting? And that's why in our previous series we talked about getting people's consent. You don't just get an implied consent or you give them predict forms that automatically gives you the right to process their data. So you need to inform them about how you use their right, how you use their information, what do you use it for. They have the right to ask for information about the details you collect from them, the purpose of processing their data, and that is one of the principles of data privacy. Then you should have a lawful purpose. You don't just get people's data because you just want to build a database. So you need to give them information about the data retention period. How long are you going to retain their data? They can ask all of these questions, and as a data controller, you should give them this information when they ask any information on how their data is being used, how it is being collated, how it is being utilized, if you are transferring it to third party, any information they want to ask about their data, the use of their data. As a data controller, they have that right to ask, and you are mandated to give them a clear information. You don't just hold information. You don't give them, you don't disclose a part of it and keep a part of it. They have that right, and where this information is not well given to them, they can query it. They can write to the agency of government that regulates data protection, or they can even file an action in court. So every data subject has a right to be informed. So whether the provisions of the personal data is a statutory or contractual requirement, whether you are collecting it for statutory purpose, that is, maybe the law is the one giving you the power to retrieve that information, you also need to give them information on how it is being used. And if you even look at it, when people go to any government institution, or when someone is invited by some of this law enforcement agency or authority, they give you information. The constitution even says that you should be informed. You have a right to be informed of your offense, right to know why you are being invited, to know why you are being questioned, and you have a right to remain silent and all. So the same way when it comes to data and to the use of your data, even government institutions, if they are getting any data for you, they should give you heads up on why that data is being collected. So another thing is another right of data subject is the right of access. Every data subject has the right to be confirmed, has the right to confirm whether their personal data or their sensitive data is being used or sold to anyone. So you need to give them access, precise information on how that data is being processed and what it is being used for. Are you giving it to third parties? Are you using it for your organization alone? So you need to give them access to even rectify when they want to rectify that information, because there are times where people give an information at the time of submission of the form, and during the course of the year or during the course of events there is a change in status and all. So you need to give them access to be able to rectify. So this leads to the right to rectification, right to correct their data, and that is one of the principles of data privacy and protection, that any data you are collecting has to be accurate. That is the principle of accuracy. So you need to give data subjects the right to rectify their data where there is a need to rectify this data. Then another right of a data subject is the right to be forgotten, or it can also be referred to as right to erase their data or to delete their data. So a data subject has the right to tell a data controller to delete their data from their database. And one of the reasons why this data can be deleted is if it is no longer necessary, or where an individual withdraws his or her consent to the use of the data. Remember, we talked about principles of data that says that you need to get people's consent before processing or getting their data, before getting the data and then process it. So where people no longer want to give their consent to the use of their data, they have a right to opt out of your database, to say, oh, please delete my details from your database. And when they give you that instruction, it is expected that you reasonably within time delete their data from your database, because if you don't do that, they can write to the data protection agency, like I said, and there are fines for all of this when you don't accede, when you don't adhere or comply or do what a data subject has requested. So still talking about the right to be forgotten, that's the right to process. A data subject also has the right to say that, please delete my data from your database when the person discovers that their data is not being used for the purpose which it was obtained. So for example, if you obtain someone's data because you want to provide a particular service to someone, and now the person keeps seeing different things that the person didn't subscribe for, the person can say that, oh no, please, I'm no longer interested in this, I don't want to see any ads. And that's why sometimes when you get some ads on your, let's say maybe you submitted your email to a particular website or to a particular institution, you get advertising emails from them. There's always an option attached to these emails that says that if you don't want to receive any email from them again, you can click the unsubscribe button. So if, for instance, after clicking that unsubscribe button icon, you unsubscribe from their email marketing and all, and then you still keep seeing these emails, that is to say that they've not executed the instruction you gave to them, they've not done what you asked them to do. So you can query all of this, because it is your right as a data subject to opt out. There's a right to opt in, that is right to giving your data, to say that, okay, I want to receive emails from you, I want you to process my data and all. And the same way you have a right to opt in, you also have a right to opt out. You have a right to say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you again, so delete my data from your database. So, and once this instruction is given, the data controller has no reason to continue to process the data, because an instruction has been given to delete that data from their database. So another right of a data subject is the right to restrict processing. So a data subject can give an organization a limitation to the use of their data. So if at the point of submitting my data, I've only said that, oh, I just want this data to be used for this particular purpose. Maybe the organization is such that they offer different services, or they have different subsidiaries and all. So at the time of providing your data, you can say that, oh, I just want this data to be used for the transaction you are processing with them, or the transaction or the contract, or anything you have to do with the particular subsidiary. So you can say that, please don't transfer my data to your other subsidiaries or the other arms of the business. So you can limit the usage of your data such that you don't have your data spread across board. So as a data subject, you have a right to restrict data controllers on how they process your data and how they use it. And also, as a data subject, you have a right to object to processing of your data. So the first one is you have a right to say, oh, limit the use of my data. The other part is you also have a right to say, to object to the use of your data, to say that your data processing or your data should only be processed when it is needed for lawful purposes only, and when it is needed for them to execute their for them to execute the instruction or anything that you have to do together. So you can object to how they process it, and you can also limit how they process it. Then another very important right of a data subject is the right to automation, and the right of automation. And we've seen cases where when people reach out to a particular data controller, they give them their data and all. Once that transaction is completed, some people continues to relate with these data subjects, and they continue to use their data. They continue to use their data for other purposes, or they keep using the data. So as a data subject, you have a right to say that there should not be any automation of your data. It should not just be used anyhow. And data subject, you have a right to say that your personal data should not be used for automated decision making. So maybe when this institution, they want to do another thing, they already have your details, and then they just use it, like, without having to come back to you to say that we want to use your data for a particular purpose. So, and this includes profiling. So some entities, they profile their clients or data subjects, and they keep using their data for any purpose that demands the use of data. So as a data subject, you have a right to say that, please just use my data for what I've given it, the purpose which the data was released to you. Don't use it for any other purpose. And when you need to do another thing for me, reach out to me, even though you're still servicing the same person. But don't just assume that data, I still want that data to be used, and you just roll it over again. Then as data subjects, you have a right not to be discriminated against exercising your rights as a data subject. So there's freedom from discrimination, just like we have it in the Constitution of Nigeria and other constitutions. So as a data subject, you also have a right not to be discriminated against in the use of your data. So you can't just say, oh, this person is a child, let me use the data anyhow, or this person has this particular condition. No. So you need to be very fair and reasonable as a data controller. So another right is right to withdraw consent, which I talked about. So if you give data to data controller, you also have a right to say that I don't want you to use my data again. So you can withdraw the consent, and you can give consent to data controllers. So we've come to the end of today's section on the rights of data subjects. And like I said, this is not an exhaustive list of the rights of data subjects. So if you look at different jurisdictions, you will see these rights being discussed in variations. But if you look generally, if you pick like 10 different data protection regulations, you can easily find the right of information, right of access, rights or relating to automation of data usage, right to delete your data, right to rectify your data, right of data portability, that is transferring your data from one device or machinery to another, and a host of other rights that that is related to data privacy. So thank you once again for joining us today, and look forward to another insightful section on your data privacy and the law. Do have a great day.